Hey, Chandler Bolt here. Joining me today is Garrett White. Garrett is the founder of, you've probably heard of this, the Wake Up Warrior Movement. He's also the author of 6 books, including the best-selling book, The Warrior Book. He's the creator of Warrior Week and also the host of top-rated podcasts, including Warrior on Fire, Warrior Wealth, and Date Your Wife. Has way more books than you'd even know of if you search on Amazon. And there's some strategy behind that. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, along with how to use books to grow your business. It's something he's done just an amazing job of, and just created a huge movement in the Wake Up Warrior movement. So Garrett, super excited to have you here.
Pumped to be here. Excited. Wait, you're a young man that's created some early success. Now we hope you don't lose it. Don't lose it, bro. I've already built one and lost it and built another one. So yeah, the not losing part's a good one.
Yes, sir. It's a different skill set to make it than to keep it, right?
Well, it's like the skill set of writing a book, and then it's the skill set of having a book get you paid. There's two different things, right? You can write all the books you want, still not fucking get paid, right? So like getting paid and also writing a book that matters. It appears that you, Hal Elrod, I saw him a couple of interviews he did with you. He's done some amazing job. A lot of people have done that. So excited to be here and talk about books. Excited to talk about Warrior. Talk about what we've done with books to be able to launch 55,000 client experience with members of Wake Up Warrior all over the globe, and how they leverage my books in video, audio, and text format to be able to actually consume our curriculum and learn how to live our system.
For sure. So first off, why books? I mean, why is this such a kind of fundamental part of your business, and why did you write the first one?
So if we go back, I graduated from college. I read 5 books total. Graduate from high school to college, one of which was Lord of the Flies. That was a great one. And then the second was Friday Night Lights. So I read 5, only remember 2. So I remember Piggy into Conch, which is a book they used to require. So I'm 45 now. They used to require us to read that in elementary, middle school. And then it was about a bunch of boys on an island who try to kill each other. It's fantastic. Nowadays, they'd call that book completely incorrect. They would cancel the shit out of it and you couldn't read it. And 90% of our class would have had ADD medication, but they let us all be fucking crazy, and that's how we made money. So then the other book I read was Friday Night Lights, because I thought I was going to be a football player and a strength coach my whole life. And after I got done playing football at Boise State and played professionally arena leagues for a bit, I ended up as a coach. And I'd read 5 books. That's it, right? I literally went to college. I didn't read shit. I just was really good at what I did. I could memorize things and get it in and get it out real fast. So I don't remember anything from college outside. I was way better than everybody else in my PE degree. Pedagogy, because it was natural for me to lead and guide people. So I just pulled the shit out of my ass and nailed it. So I'm sitting there as a coach on a Thursday afternoon before a homecoming match. And I have my boys out there for familiar football. We got a Clemson helmet on your bookshelf there. So I'm confident, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. So we're doing a little walk through Skelly with shorts and jerseys and helmets on a Thursday, homecoming game the next night. Field is fresh cut back when all of us had real grass and couldn't have AstroTurf and 92 angle camera angles from everywhere. So we were getting ready, and I just had a moment, and that moment was like, is this what I've been born to do? Like, is this it? Like, I'd already been married and divorced once. I had a son at the time I never saw. I was like, he lived in Canada with his mother. And I was like, is this it? And in that same week time period, my friend gave me a book and he said, read this. And it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. So this is 21 years ago, right? So I picked this book up and I'm obsessed with this book. Like, I can't stop reading it. And for the next 6 to 12 months, I just read anything that Robert Kiyosaki put out. I would buy the audio tapes every Friday. I'd go into the Barnes & Noble. I'd get the audio tape version of the book. I would listen to it as many times as I could in my Audi, put it in the tape player, listen to it as many times as I could. Didn't have all the fucking shit that everybody gets now. I mean, the time I was doing this, Chandler, 21 years ago, you'd have been what? How old are you now? 28?
Yep. 28
years old. You were 7. You were 7, Chandler, when I was putting tapes into the tape player. So you're like, fucking tapes, what? So I'm putting tapes into the tape player. I'm listening. And then that led me on a journey for the next 10 years. I just consumed everything. I found the power in books. It was like being able to have a mentor in my car. And that's why that's what I felt like. So that was long before I cared about writing. I consumed. And reading books changed everything about my life. It was just obsessed with the fact that I could obtain knowledge like this. So that was kind of the beginning of my whole writing game was reading.
Yep. We have very similar stories in that sense. It's this called a book, a $15 mentor, right? And it's books change lives. They change the lives of the readers. They change the lives of the authors. And obviously you've been on both sides of that. So fast forward, why from, okay, a book changed your life, then why start writing books? I mean, you're kind of on this path of already having a successful business. Like, why interject a book and take time out of everything that you're doing with the business to actually write a book and then now do 6 of them? Make that just, it seems like such a fundamental part of the strategy.
So like Wicked Warrior was born in roughly 2009 and 10. It was a way to put my life back together. My business was destroyed. My marriage was falling apart. I had cheated on my wife. She was pregnant with our second together. And like I was like, addiction is like, just my life was not working. It just was not working. My wife had every right to throw me out, should have. To this day, the fact that she didn't was incredible. Not necessarily speaking of the character of who I am, but just like what she chose to do for her. I think God was working in our lives in a way that I didn't recognize at the time. So as I came to terms with all this, and I came to terms with what my life was at, like I just started documenting things in a journal. And I started documenting a journal, and these questions would come up in my mind, and I felt like God in this voice was like leading me to uncover something. And I kept putting pieces down and writing. And so I was an avid journal writer at this time, just writing, drawing diagrams. And I'd been like that for 5 or 6, 7 years, just lots of note taking. So I started writing in these journals and writing these journals. And I created this game. And this game was called The Warrior's Way to Having It All. And it was how I reverse engineered the production of my life to be able to put my business back on track, put my marriage on track, put my body on track, and then put my relationship with God back on track, and like to get it all working. Because I was like, could we do this all at the same time? Well, it existed in about 4 or 5 journals, this game that I created. And then in 2012, a couple of my friends had seen me who knew me when I was a banker during my first run of businesses from 2000, 2008. They were like, dude, you were a train wreck. Like, now all of a sudden you're like a CrossFit monster and your marriage is on fire and you're like meditating and preaching and doing your thing and you're making money again. And like, dude, what did you do? I said, well, I created this game. I call it The Warrior's Way to Having It All. And they're like, well, what's it all about? And I said, well, let me break out my 4 journals and let me teach you what I do every day and how I gamified my life. That's it. Like I was like, let me show you. So in late 2012, there's the guys me know, like Sean Whalen, who runs Lions Not Sheep. He was one of the first few guys into Wake Up Warrior as a student. And a handful of other guys, Ryan Stewman in the first year, a hardcore closer. A lot of these guys have written books and done amazing things too. These guys were all part of this original game. Like, how the fuck did you do this? Because we knew these guys from the investment world. And I was teaching out of journals. So Warriors launched in 2012, and I'm just teaching out of my journals. We would turn on the GoToWebinar long before the Zoom was cool. GoToWebinar was a thing, kind of back before your time, Chandler. You wouldn't know about that GoToWebinar. Now the Zoom's such a thing. Tapes and GoToWebinar and, you know, track phones and razors that flipped that we thought were fucking cool.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm teaching this all through 2012 and 13. I'm teaching out of my journals. And I always had been into PC tablets. So I started writing with PC tablets back in my banking years, like back in 2002 and 3, when PC tablets were like $7,000, which is fucking unheard of. They were so heavy, and flip the screen around and write it. And you couldn't do video conferencing, but you could draw. So I did virtual meetings were big for me even before virtual was cool. We were doing virtual as bankers and drawing out financial plans and drawing out investment strategies. So I would teach out of my journals to the guys, and we would talk. And then I kept drawing over and over and teaching the same shit over and over and over again through 2012, through 2013, through 2014. And finally, I'm sitting there during one afternoon out of nowhere, kind of like rewind back to the PE teaching days. And I have this moment where I'm like, why don't I put all this in a book? That will make a lot more sense. Then the guys could read this instead of me having to repeat myself all the time. I was like, well, I don't know how to write a book. How am I going to do that? And I'd done some stupid compilation books back in the day where it was dumb. It made me feel good about myself, but I was embarrassed to show anyone because I was like, me and 75 of the people in the book. Like I just didn't want to do it that way. That works for some people. It just didn't work for me. So that was the first shift. Like the first pivot was like, why don't I write a book? I'd never had the thought. Never had the thought. I'd always read books, but I'd never once said, hey, why don't you be an author? I was like, write a book. Oh, shit. Okay. Oh, okay. Whoa, wait a second. I could be like the Robert Kiyosaki for what I do for my people if I just wrote a book for them. So that was the first big pivot, was I just recognized that the fastest way to stop having to teach out of my journals and do it on a PC tablet over and over and over again was to put it in a book.
Turning your broken record conversations into a best-selling book. It's the thing that you keep repeating over and over and over again that you don't want to keep repeating, is crystallizing that into a book and then pointing to that book. So how long did it take you to get it written and published, and how'd you do it?
First book was Warrior Book, but it started out as Black Book. So it was 2015. I actually did it different than some people. I was not really good at writing. Now I can sit down and write a book. I've gotten very good at typing, getting my thoughts out, but that's taken 5-6 years of writing every day actively for a couple hours with my finger strokes to get to a place where I felt really comfortable with that and my copy. So I did it different. I took the same journals, I created frameworks, and I divided up the frameworks, had each framework be a chapter. And one of my abilities is to freestyle. So I freestyle speak real well. And I've been doing radio, and I've been doing podcasting, and I've been doing video, and I'd speak in large events and small events for years. And I was like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. So we set up a little mini studio in my office. And over 3 days, I recorded the entire book, which is I just would take the framework and I would speak it. We recorded it, and we took the audios we transcribed. And then myself and one of my team members went through and we formed it, right? So we took the transcriptions we took the frameworks and we took the transcriptions and we just carved it down. And there we go. So that was like, they took a bit of time, but once we had that down, it was good enough. And we published the first book, was called Black Book, which had 5 or 6 different additions to it. Then it became Warrior Book. And that was the one that we had about 35,000 copies of that. Purchase. We were selling that book for $100 online.
Wow. And so let's break down that for a little bit, because $100 book, 35,000 copies sold. I couldn't find it on Amazon. I don't think, as far as I know, that it is on Amazon. It's just direct sales. So how'd you sell so many copies of that book?
Ads. So
Okay.
we ran traffic in the beginning to sales funnels, and then we would sell Warrior Book straight off. And then our plan was to turn it into a lead dev tool, but at the time, we weren't set up like the way we are now at Wake Up Warrior. So I didn't have the ability. We didn't have the offers now. Like our first gateway offer from 2012 to 2000 and roughly 18, 19, your only way into Warrior outside of buying the book was $10,000. So you made a $10,000 investment to start out, and then it went from 10,000 up to 250,000. So there wasn't really we were very niched and boutique in who we dealt with. And getting the book out was our first attempt to get the message wider, because we knew, although from a business perspective, I was niched down to a specific target for profitability's sake, for impact's sake, like working with guys with $300-400 million companies was very normal and natural for me to help them, guide them to lead and even break $1 billion, go public, which we've had many companies that guys go from 15, 20K a month to companies worth $120 million in less than 4 or 5 years. So like we've watched the power of what this system is and what Warrior does for guys. But I also had this piece in my heart that was like, man, I want to meet the guy that's like me in 2000 as a PE teacher, or me sitting in my pit and fucking hating my life in 2009, who doesn't have $10,000, who doesn't have $100,000, where shit's not working. How do we meet that guy there? And so the desire for publishing Warrior Book was twofold. One, to meet those people who weren't currently prospects or candidates for the business, and help them anyways. And then the second piece was to have it as a backbone of curriculum that my guys could listen to and study. It was more organized. So it was like dual fold. Write the book to reach other people, but write the book so that my clients could get clearer about what we were teaching and they would live it better.
And has that been kind of the model that you've followed with each additional book? Is, okay, this book is going to be a fundamental piece of the curriculum, and it's going to be it's going to go out and help people who maybe couldn't purchase the program, but then also I would assume in that process, bring in customers through that as well.
100%. Yeah. So all I did with the box. So in 2019, in 2018, we like hit our pinnacle. It was the first year that the particular brand by itself broke 20 million. And I was like, okay, I knew like we were having a lot of success, but it still felt like we didn't have a spine. And I don't mean like a spine, like we're not powerful, we're not committed, not that. I mean, like there was like, it seemed like we were missing, the book was not enough. It seemed like we were still missing something. So I'd read a book called Membership Economy by one by the name of Robbie Baxter, which by the way, you'll think is a dude because you listen to the audiobook and it's a guy out of Silicon Valley. And so of course you assume Robbie with the guy's voice, you're going to talk to Robbie, but Robbie has breasts. It's a woman. So you call her and Robbie guy, get on the phone. I'm super shocked at first. I'm like, oh, hello, you're a woman. She's like, yeah. I said, well, you should probably put your voice on your audiobook because I thought you were a dude and I listened to you like 5 times. She's like, well, good. So you're a woman. I don't care if you're a woman, man, or a dog. It doesn't matter. It seems like you have something that could help me. So we started talking and then I hired her and paid $25,000 for like a series of calls or invested $25,000 in her. And in our first call, I was done. Like I didn't even know the call. And she listened to everything we're doing. She said, sounds like the problem that you have is that you do not have a clear client journey. And I was like, fuck, yeah, that's probably a good way to put it. She said, well, why don't you get that nailed? And then the rest of this will make more sense. And so in 2019, I created these, I just had a vision. I was like sitting there doing my normal Warriors Way work, part of which is annual planning in a really big way. And I saw the Warrior book in 6 books. And I saw 6 apps. I saw 6 apps and I saw 6 books. And I thought, we're going to take the Warrior book and I'm going to break each one of the core ideas, the code, the stack, the core, the door, and the game, these 5 concepts, these 5 pillars in our program. And I'm going to write a specific book for all of them plus 2 others. And so I did. So in 1 year, we followed the same protocol I'd written in Warrior book. We wrote 6 more books. We built the Warrior box. And we launched this $500 box that had 6 of the books plus a manual tool that we had in there and wrote the books that way. So the whole goal with that was to take our students deeper, like take them deeper. Again, dual fold with the box, which was reach people who want to buy the box and then bring them into our programs. And the second one was to support the members, which was the biggest one, to support our members in the books.
That's great. And so you've got those 6 books on those 6 pillars. And how does that work within the larger ecosystem? Is it people can only buy the box as a whole, as kind of like a box set together? Can they buy individual books? The box set, I'm assuming, fits with the overarching kind of curriculums and programs, one program and curriculum per box, and it matches up with the apps. Like, how does kind of all that work together?
So there's an app plus a book under each concept. And then the books all fit in the box. But the only way to get the books right now is you either buy the box or you join one of our programs. So that's it. You join the programs, you don't get the physical box, but you get the audio. So I went in studio and recorded all the audios to them because we recognized real quickly that this box, although awesome, and the books are great, and people like to read the books for sure, we get a way more traction. We get people to listen to them. So I recorded the audios. We built our own audio app. And so we had the books and we had the audio. And most of the consumption of those, we've had almost 10,000 boxes sold around the world. We found out shipping that box to some countries is a total nightmare. Gets caught up in customs and all kinds of things because it's just big. It's heavy. I mean, this is not like selling one book. So we have not made a book. We had Be the Man, the book, and Warrior book up on to buy, purchase online on Amazon for a period of time. And then we took those down. So right now, the only way you can buy a book from me or get access to a book is to actually be part of one of my programs. And if you're part of my program, you get the book. So 2022 will be the first time we take all 6 books directly to marketplace that go back up online individually, and they're written as individual content. So we're in the rewrite of those now as it goes today with my teams, and those will be ready the 1st of January, 2022.
Got it. Nice. That's awesome. And how many of the box sets did you say you guys have sold so far?
Over 10,000.
10,000. That's awesome.
We sold
and so,
500 a piece. Actually, sometimes around 297. So we've had some discounts based upon if there were a bump sale inside of a sales funnel.
Got it. That makes sense. Okay. So you've got the box set for 500, sometimes in a funnel is like kind of an order bump or that sort of thing. And then you've got using this as part of the curriculum. What's the thought process behind now breaking these out as individual books and then kind of mass marketing them and that sort of thing?
There's different entry points, right? So the way the Warrior system works, like there's really there's 6 conversations, but there's really 5 fundamental core pieces of it. And depending on who you are and where you're at in life, like you'll resonate with different angles of the tools, right? So each one of these concepts has its own tool that when used comprehensively is the Warriors Way system, but it takes a minute, right? It takes a good year for a person to be able to install all these. And once they do, it's game fucking over. Like There's nothing anyone has that can compete with what we have. Nobody. Like, I don't care who they are, but the learning curve to learn it, like all things that are worth it, takes a minute, right? Which means you got to be in our program, be consistent with us for about a year to 18 months. And I'll give you another 25 years of your life. And I'll give it to you at high level, and I'll give it back to you, and God will give it back to you at the highest prosperous level you've ever experienced. Only you'll have it across the board of body, being, balance, and business at the same time. So for us going and making that available now for the first time, we've actually done a couple interesting things. One, we stripped all 95% of language out of it, right? Because I say fuck a lot, and these are things, right? And we have a lot of people who want to leverage, including a ton of churches, want to leverage a curriculum because it's the most practical, implementable system that a lot of these pastors have ever had access to. Or you can read the Bible on Sunday, you can worship, it's fantastic, but this is like a practical system to accessing God every day and allowing men, particularly women too, we have a lot of women in our program now, to do like life, to actually to be liberated. The statement we use in it is you can be saved and still be a slave, right? So great, you accepted Jesus Christ, congratulations, I appreciate it, so have I, and your life still sucks ass. So what do you want me to tell you? Like, you can keep preaching and worshiping on Sunday, but if you don't start doing some shit differently with your life, your marriage isn't going to turn around because you asked for blessing, right? Fundamentally, people have to operate differently. You have to change the way you think. You have to operate. Can God give you that? Yeah. So we were looking at this and we had so many churches reaching out, but again, I'm pretty intense, right? I got the language, I got the tattoos, I say fuck a lot, I have no filters, and I do whatever. So corporate America and a lot of church world have wanted to leverage our tools, but it's difficult because once they put it into the congregations or their executive teams, people are like, who the fuck is this guy? This is like so against HR, he can't possibly, why are we looking at this? They're like, no, just ignore all the cussing and it'll work. So we actually we're going back, the books we're taking to the market the 1st of January have 95% of language stripped out. Still very intense, but I have specific writers on my team who are going through and they're using still all my own language, but we're stripping out the fucks and the motherfucks and some things like this that normally is the way I talk. So we're stripping that out, number one. Number two, we're adding biblical back scripture to back every single chapter across all 6 books to show this is biblically sound in everything we're teaching and talking about. Nothing that we're speaking about in the Warriors Way is contradictory to God's word. So that's the second piece. And the third piece we're adding, which we didn't have when we first wrote them, is we're adding witnesses, meaning making the books multi-voiced, where it's Garrett's story, but we're also adding in and blending in the stories of other men and women who have lived the Warriors Way on each chapter so that people can see this is bigger than just Garrett after a decade. It's not just Garrett's voice anymore. And then the last piece we're doing in the audio recordings, we're bringing in about 20 different voices reading the books, men and women who will take the final product and we'll spend an entire week together. And I'll fly people in, they'll read for half a day. We'll edit it down, then they're gone, read it so that the actual audio experience is a we experience. The books are a we experience. And Garrett can still do Garrett the way he does it, my way. Still got those books in my language and all the fucks and motherfucks and all the other things I like to say. And then we've got this other offer that allows people to take the curriculum and the science that we know works so well. And I don't have any ego in it. I'm like, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me as long as people are learning and growing. My aggressive energy are really attractive to a lot of people and completely turns some people off. And so we just want to create another version of this that allows for people who may be very intimidated by me, be more connected to one of our facilitators or one of our qualified or trained trainers and give them the ability. So that's the reason why the books are going public that way in January.
And are you launching them all at once? Or are you going to sequence them out over a period of months or years? Or what does that look like?
I haven't thought about that. Won't be over years for sure. I would imagine we'll probably launch them all at the same time. I can't see us putting any strategy together. It's like, let's roll out one every month over the period of time. I think we'll probably, the content and curriculum's been out long enough. We'll probably just release them all at the same time.
Just build momentum behind it. That makes sense. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of people listening and saying, geez, this sounds like a massive project. Like, why is this so important to you? And why do you feel like this is such an important thing for the business and kind of the next phase of the business? Like, why spend all this time and do this?
So like you have 2 kinds of businesses. You have businesses that you run to make money, which are great. I have some of those, like I feel really called to them, but they're really profit centers. And then you have businesses that are profit centers, but they're also part of your legacy. And what you feel is your calling to pump the planet. Right. Or so like, that's me, like, Steve Jobs, they want to dent the universe. I want to pump the planet. That's all. Like he wanted to dent the universe, bigger vision than me. I want to pump the planet. And the crazy part about what we're doing is we're allowing Warrior to have an identity beyond me. My personality is really big. Obviously, like the originator, I'm the number one case study of living the Warriors way. So like my voice is going to constantly be in it. But if we had it the way I want it to be, by the time my youngest, my wife's pregnant with our fifth, so we're going to have a baby in January. By that time, I'm 45. That means I'm going to be 63, 64 by the time my baby graduates from high school. So I'll be like that fit, sexy, 60-something-year-old. People are like, say, Grandpa? I was like, hell no, I'm not little one's father. They're like, yeah, yep, you got this. By that point, the message of Warrior is so powerful and the tools are so powerful that people don't really know. They have to look it up on a wiki to figure out who started it. They're like, who's this guy that started this? It's like the Calvary Chapel movement that happened in Christianity. It started here in Southern California. Like Warrior as a message has been going for 10 years, 55,000 clients impacted by this, living this at a very deep level. And millions have been impacted around them just from our messages and the shares. We watch what happens with our challenges. So like for me, the push is just the next step forward, as well as the collapsing of all 6 of our apps into one app, which will launch in January 2. All of these are the initiative to really accelerate the ability of getting this message out and having this message be something that people of many different walks of life can find and go, okay, I can do this. Like Chandler, if Chandler is a Warrior trainer and he's been certified in this, the way Chandler talks, I like Chandler. He's a Clemson fan. He's like, he's younger, he's more hip than this old bastard with the gray beard. I don't like that guy, but I like Chandler. He's got great teeth. He still wears the old AirPods. I don't know why he's doing that. He's got the old ones. I don't know why he does that. They're long. They look like long dangly earrings, but whatever. Chandler's still trying to figure his shit out a little bit.
Oh man.
So like in that place of like whoever it is, like giving him a chance to be able to say, hey, Chandler's my guy. And they can learn the Warriors way versus what it has been and up till now has been either you like Garrett or you don't. And if you don't like me, then you don't like Warriors way and you don't learn it. And if you like me or you resonate with me, then you can learn it. And we're just trying to open it up to where there's hundreds of voices that are speaking it and the Warriors message can live for hundreds of years beyond me.
That's great. And I love the approachability and then the putting the brand ahead of the individual coming gives us a long-term movement. Right. Yeah. And it's the same thing we talk about with people in book stuff is, a lot of times it's like, they might not read so-and-so's book, but they might relate with you. And it's like all the people who feel like, hey, I don't know if I have something to say or something that's unique. It's like, well, your book might be the only book that they read all year because they relate to you, but they might not relate to Tony Robbins or to Oprah or to whoever else. Right. So a couple of final things here. This has been awesome. Where you had one book and you alluded to this a little bit earlier, Be the Man. It's on Amazon. And I think you pulled it off of Amazon. So what was the thought process behind publishing that there? I mean, it's got over 600 reviews, so not too shabby. And so I guess what was the thought process behind that book? And then why pull it off Amazon and then kind of exclusively sell all your books off of Amazon. And then you kind of already alluded to it when I come back and do the major push with all the 6 books, but I'm curious about like kind of that part of the process.
We wrote Be the Man after our Warrior book. And I wrote Be the Man as like a smaller, more palatable, like shorter read. Cause Warrior book's pretty thick. It's like 500 pages long. And so I was like, all right, well, what if we wrote a thinner book that kind of got people started and then it would lead them to the Warrior book. So that was the first intention. Then my publisher at the time that we were using, was kind of self-published, but not self-published. It was like they were a publishing house, but they kind of weren't a publishing house. It wasn't like we were dealing with like Hay House or we were dealing with some, Penguin. We weren't dealing with it like a big time publisher. So they were doing all the publishing. We were sharing revenue and splitting profits. And for a period of time, we were donating a couple of years, 100% of our profits to the Navy SEALs Fund from that book. And then that publisher went bankrupt and kept all our money. And they had set everything up on Amazon. So all of our Amazon cart, store, everything, like they kept all the money that we hadn't been paid in a year. And they kept all the money and then our book got depublished, right, from Amazon because they didn't keep up whatever they had to do on their backside. So at that time when it happened, I was like, well, do we want to put it back online? I was like, fuck it. We're not going to put it back online. We're just going to use it as part of our own internal marketing strategy. So we just didn't put it back up. And Same with the Warrior Book. We just didn't put it back up. We just kept them in-house. And I decided for the next couple of years, all we're going to do is sell these inside of our programs, because I'm more interested in people living this than I am people reading this. And because I'm more interested in people living it than I'm reading it, I just don't want this to be another book that people pick up in the airport and are like, oh God, I read this book and it changed my life for 5 minutes. And then I was on to my next thing. So there wasn't like some big strategy. It's just we were the result of some poor business planning decisions on the publisher side. And so we were left with a decision, and that's what I decided to do. It's kind of like how I got Garrett J. White, right? They're like, how did you call yourself Garrett J. White? Where did that come from? And I was like, well, I had GarrettWhite.com. I forgot the password and lost the email login for GoDaddy. I couldn't find it and I could never get it, and they would never give it to me. So I just bought Garrett J. White. My middle name's James. So I was like GarrettJWhite.com. And that's how I became GarrettJWhite.com. They're like, there's no fucking strategy. I forgot the password for GoDaddy. So I found J and put it in. And now all my kids and my wife and everybody goes by their middle initial, and I introduce myself that way. So like when you say Garrett White, I'm like, hey, Chandler, put the J in there. Put the J in there, Chandler.
So did you ever find the password?
No. Still don't have GarrettWhite.com. It's probably expired forever ago. I don't care though, because I'm Garrett J. White. Garrett White's dead. We let him go. He's not a guy. Yeah, he's out of here.
Hey, so what would you say, Garrett J. White, to those?
Look at that course correction. Now all we got to do is get you the AirPod Pros, and you're going to be off to the races, Chandler. I'm going to send you a little gift.
Oh man, what would you say to the people who they're using a book as part of the core fundamental curriculum for a program? And I mean, I hear this all the time, and it's like, well, hold up. If I just give them the book, they're not going to want to, or if they can just purchase the book, they're not going to want to get the program. Like maybe I should hold some stuff back in the book. Do I say everything? Like, what's your philosophy on all that?
Give them all of it. Give them all of it. The best shit you would teach or train at an event you paid $10,000, you charge $10,000 for, put it all in your book. 100% of it in your book. And then record the audiobook for it. And like, I used to feel the same way. I was like, oh, I want to hold back. Only give them a slice of pizza. Give them one piece of pepperoni, not the whole. It's fucking bullshit. It doesn't work, right? So here's the fun. Let me give you an example that's outside of my realm with one of my buddies who I totally love and adhere, like endear to, which is Russell Brunson, right? So Russell Brunson, great friend of mine. I spoke at Funnel Hacking Live like 7 straight years in a row. I'm the only guy outside of him. I've spoken there more than Tony Robbins has. Like I set Tony every single year, right? And I say this because like I'm infiltrated, and I've been part of the backside of his books, every single book, .com secrets, expert secrets, traffic secrets. Before he launched them, I have access to these books like 6 months in advance. So I'm reading, giving him feedback. My wife was converted as a marketer to reading it. And the thing I kept telling Russell, I would laugh every time I fucking read his books. And I would send him the same message over and over again months before he released it. I was like, dude, if people just followed what you told them to do in this book, they would have no reason to pay you shit beyond the book, you would think. But here's what we know. People won't read it. So that's number one. This is an unfortunate thing with books. People get the books, they'll read a bit, and then they just want more help. So the more you put in there, the more detail, it actually reverses. You give them the whole pizza, they realize they're overwhelmed and they want more help. So this is a natural default. By giving them all the good shit for the cheap thing, they naturally want to buy more from you. So that's number one. Number two, when you give it this way, you'll promote the book harder because you know what you've given them is quality shit. It's not some 17-person compilation. I paid $4,000 for a shitty book, right? You put all your good shit in, which means you're going to market so much harder because when you think about the blood, sweat, and tears and what you put in it, you'll want to hit people with the book and go, do you not fucking know what's in this thing? I have given you all the clues. So there's number 2 reason. Number 3, by doing this, people will actually trust you more. Some people can read 2 chapters of your book and they want everything from you. Some people need to read the whole book and then they need to listen to the book 2 more times. And there are people who have listened to Warrior Book, for example, 5, 6, 7 times. And these same individuals eventually invested $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in it, right? But they needed their time to process what was being said. So the coolest thing about putting all the good stuff in is, number 1, it eliminates your scarcity and it lets you recognize that your information is not where the value is. Implementation and results from your information is where the value is.
Yeah.
And giving people the knowledge does not guarantee they will do what's required to get the results. So we're no longer in a time where your information is so special. Yeah. We're in a day and age where results are everything. So if you can put it in a clean, simple map and give it to them, and then the next natural step is, well, hey, I read this. I read Expert Secrets, .com Secret. I read The Warrior Box. I read We Live by Code. I read, Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And what do I naturally want to do? Well, I want to be part of Hal's community. I want to go to Funnel Hacking Live. I want to go to Warrior Week, like whatever the thing is. People want more, and giving them the best you have shows them the value of what you actually have to offer. And the worst case scenario is people read your book and they get results and they go away. And that's good karma.
Yeah. And they're fired up about it. It's like my book published. People come to me all the time. It's like, hey, thank you so much. I read your book and then I wrote and published a book. This is amazing. Best $15 I've ever spent.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's a cool feeling. And I love the quote. It's give away all your best stuff for free and people will pay you to tell it to them again and hold them accountable to what's in that. And so I think it's just, you're spot on, man. And we couldn't agree more on that point. So Garrett, knowing what you know now, going back to the Garrett before you even wrote any of these books and all the other Garretts that are out there that are thinking, hey, maybe I've only read 5 books by the time I'm in college. What would your advice be to those people who are thinking about or on their journey of writing and publishing their first book?
Number one, you got a good system because I went through it. I saw it. You showed up my house, went through a whole lot of the materials. The stuff here at Self-Publishing School is incredible. So number one, I would use the tools. And so I wouldn't try to do it. Like I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So that was a big problem. Like when we first started doing these books, I had no idea what I was doing. Compilation books are good, but you're never going to believe in a compilation book the same way. It's not, a compilation book does not force you to become something, right? So those are like two things. Third piece in this end is as you follow Chandler's system, as you follow the process and what he's outlining for you, understand that no matter how much you think it should be better, it's good enough. And no matter how good you think it is, you will look back on it and go, oh my God, we should have done this, this, and this. But guess what? It will work the first time for people at that level, including you. And then when you come back, you may rewrite. Dude, I've wrote my first book in 2015, and here we are 2021 going to 22. And I'm in my second rewrite. So like, you're going to see stuff. I mean, are you shitting me? Look at this. I want to show you something. We have a book. I have 20,000 copies of this book. Let me show you this. You don't see it right away. Chandler, do you see anything wrong with the cover of this book? Now that I'm saying it to you, we'll see if you can notice it. There's something that happened on the cover of this book after all the edits and after all the people and after all the work and all the teams.
Oh, yeah. It took me a while. Bullet roof.
Oh, bullet roof. And what else? What else do you see?
Oh, man.
Bullet roof is a bad one. Where's the other thing on here? These mistakes should never have happened. I laughed my ass off about them.
Winning.
Winning impossible games. Challenge yourself. Bullet roof your life. I mean, this, like I was talking with Sean Whalen with Lions Not Sheep. He wrote the book and he's like, dude, my book went and we'd already sold something like 15,000 copies when somebody made a comment in one of my posts and they're like, you dumbass, you don't even have page numbers on your book. And he's like, fuck those guys, give me the book. He opens it up and he goes, holy shit, we have no page numbers in the book. So listen, no matter who you are, getting this first book out is very important. And just the fact that you do it puts you in a 1% club in the world. So people will respect the fact that you wrote it, and you will respect the fact that you did it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Garrett, this has been amazing. Hey, where can people go? I mean, I know it's not, we're a little ways out from the relaunch, but where can they go to get your book and to find out more about the Warrior Movement? 2
different places you go. Number one, if you want to check out the box, you can go to warriorbox.com. So warriorbox.com, we have the Warrior Box up there. You can learn all about all the books that are on it, what they're about, how they stand for it. I can give you the audio book version of all of them as part of your investment in the Wake Up Warrior Challenge. So if you go to wakeupwarriorchallenge.com, We allow audiobooks are part of that during your challenge experience. You get to listen to them, and you can end up picking up all the audiobooks, all 6 for $97 there. But after the challenge is done, if you want to keep them. So we have hundreds and hundreds of people every week that choose to take that on and keep the audiobooks to themselves and keep listening and go from there. So warriorbox.com or wakeupwarriorchallenge.com would be your 2 paths. But either way, know this, like as hard as it is for you to possibly imagine, your life, when uncovered, is a book in the writing and in the making. And you publishing this book, whether it's even just for your family and for your children, which is why I publish a book every month. Every month for the last 3 years, I publish a book directly to my children. That's between 300 to 400 pages long, so that my kids know exactly who I am, how I got where I am. They know exactly how I made it through COVID. They know exactly the business moves, decision moves. They know how my family came to Christ in the last 6 months and how that was a massive thing for our family and why we chose it. There's never going to be a question from my kids about how dad got where he is and why. They'll be able to read it as I publish a book every month. So whether you're even doing that for yourself, which is following Chandler's process, just to publish a book about your thoughts. That's what my mom's doing right now, just because she wants to get her thoughts out before she dies.
Yeah.
This is a time everybody should write a book. Even if you never try to take that book around the globe, it'll matter the world. Even if the world never sees it, it'll matter the world to your family and to the people who are closest to you. So get after it, follow the process. It's a pain in the ass, but it works. And when you do it, you'll feel so much better about yourself.
Oh, preach. Garrett J. White, you're the man. Thank you so much, brother.
Appreciate you, bro. Thanks for having me today.